Scott Parker here with Ford Muscle. We're at the Roadster Shop booth with one of the most talked about things in our market right now on the SEMA Show floor is the Roadster Shop chassis for a Fox Body. Yes, you heard me right, for a Fox Body. I'm here with Jeremy Gerber, who's going to tell me all about it.
Right on.
All right, Jeremy, walk me through what we have here.
Sure.
And what inspired you to, develop a Fox Body chassis.
So we've been talking about it for a long time. We build full chassis for predominantly muscle cars and trucks, and the trends are changing. Customers are getting what were once younger customers are now a little bit older. They have the financial means to pursue building the car that they loved when they were in high school or they remembered when they were a kid. Mm-hmm. So the demographics changing, and it seemed like it's finally time that the Fox Body, it's gonna come around and people are gonna start spending more and more money on it. They've been around for years, great cars, people have modified them every which way. I've always liked them, maybe I've been a little bit more of a Chevy guy, but always liked them. I didn't know if it was gonna be feasible to package any sort of suspension under one in the way that we do things. There's a lot of bolt-on applications out there to put a front kit on it, a rear 4-link kit, something like that. And that's just not what we do. Yeah. So staring at the car, it just, it kind of dawned on me, looking at the space constraints that were there, it looked like we could squeeze something in there. Mm-hmm. So we decided to purchase a car, got a really clean 91 Mustang GT, brought it in, digitally scanned the entire car, and then just went to work on seeing how we could package a complete chassis underneath that unibody car. Very
cool. Now that's very interesting because again, you just brought that up. It is a unibody, so it's not a body on frame, which you would typically be. It's an easy swap, right? When it's body on frame. Yep. Why go to a full chassis with a unibody car?
So those cars, as anybody knows, who's a Fox Body connoisseur, right? They're inherently sort of weak cars. You can put a subframe connector in them. Not a lot of strength. Even when you've got the hatchback, version, you're giving up even more strength in the cars. They're prone to rattling. You can kind of see and feel them flex. Everybody wants big horsepower. Mm-hmm. So rather than just trying to connect the front subframe to the rear subframe via a subframe connector, we wanted to package a complete chassis in it. Put the strength of a full chassis in addition to what little strength is still left there in the unibody, and that's what we did.
Okay. Can you walk me through the design and what were the key features that you utilized?
Absolutely. We'll start up front because that's kind of the most interesting part.
Yeah.
The suspension geometry on these cars, being that it's strut-based, is typically very poor, right? Mm-hmm. The camber curves are not desirable at all. And for the bolt-on applications that are out there, most guys are trying to package a control arm outboard of the existing subrail. Mm-hmm. So what you're left with is a very short upper control arm. Yeah. And again, your ride quality is erratic. The camber curves are radical. It's not a good performance piece. So where we started was to lower the front upper control arm, build kind of a swept upper arm, and we packaged the pivot points underneath and even inboard of what was the factory rail. So these two mounting holes right here, that's what would pick up your original cradle mount. Mm-hmm. So with this, we're able to optimize the geometry. We pitch that A-arm so that the rear pivot is wider than the front, so we can package big tube headers on Coyotes, Godzillas, small block Fords, you name it. But the unique design is that this chassis comes from underneath. We don't touch the subframe at all. On this side, you can actually see where it interacts with the factory subrail. Mm-hmm. So it uses those factory mounts, loads from underneath, and bolts right into place. Mm-hmm. So you're still benefiting from some of that additional structure that was existing on the car, but you're adding the strength of a complete full chassis.
Yeah. Understood. And what kind of shocks are you using this?
Sure. So the suspension on it, it's all Roadster Shop geometry. Mm-hmm. This is kind of clean slate. Yeah. We built it in our spec lineup, but our off-the-shelf front suspension cradle just wouldn't work for this application. Mm-hmm. So redesigned everything just to optimize the roll centers, the camber curves, really design a high-performance front suspension. Mm-hmm. We package a 4-inch stroke Fox coilover that's specifically built with Roadster Shop valving in it. Mm-hmm. So it's a single adjustable coilover. It's our own forged knuckle. Mm-hmm. So it uses a C6 vet outer bearing, sealed bearing. It's drilled for Ford pattern. Mm-hmm. Uses a modular steering arm and then accepts a Bayer brake kit. So anything from an 11-inch brake on up to 14-inch Bayer Extremes. It's got a DOM sway bar in the front with OE links on it, power rack and pinion, and all the bushings in it are hydrometer poly. All in all, just a great performing front suspension and adding a massive amount of cornering performance into a car that wasn't really known for that.
Yeah, and with all the materials you mentioned, this is a very street-friendly setup. It's not like it's going to be a real clanky race setup.
Incredibly street-friendly. You know, we built this not to be a drag race application, not to be a road race application. This is for the guy that wants a high-performance street car. So it's fully capable of all that, but first and foremost, it's ride quality.
Yeah.
So the change of putting this under that car and getting in this and just physically just driving it, cruising it, using it like you would a daily driver, you'll instantly see the massive improvement in ride quality in that car.
Gotcha. Can you explain a little bit more? You mentioned camber curve. What is camber curve? And
so the camber curve, you know, as a car goes into roll, if you're cornering a car, that car is going to dive slightly, right? So as the body rolls, you want that camber of that wheel. You do not want it to lean positive. You want it to gain as much camber as the degrees that that car is rolling, so that your tire contact patch is always staying 100% flat on the road surface. So we build that in, that for every inch of travel, I think we're getting about a degree of negative camber in it. So great for just high performance cornering, all around handling.
Gotcha. So put another way, that's a function of this being an independent front suspension.
Correct. Versus strut base.
So when the weight changes, the alignment changes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And the rest of the chassis, you know, we use stuff that is kind of typical of some of our other production chassis. This crosses over from our early Mustang design, where we straddle the existing sub rail, so it nestles down into this notch right here.
Yeah.
We've got an adjustable trans mount, and in this display you can see the silhouettes of different common motor and trans packages.
Yeah.
So we package factory Godzilla intake under the hood, factory Coyote under the hood. The OE 5.0 intake will fit under the hood from the small block, and it packages basically every aftermarket transmission that's out there will fit underneath this tunnel. So everything from the 10R90 to a T56, your AODs, all the popular transmissions will fit underneath that factory tunnel.
Gotcha. Do you know which one of these outlines is which?
So we've got the Godzilla in front, and then we're small block Ford in the back, and Coyote in between.
Yep. So for those of you guys looking at that, Coyote is clearly the tallest of the bunch.
And everything else on the chassis is designed just to be friendly to the builders. So we know it's going to be big horsepower. We wanted to package 3-inch exhaust, and we wanted to get it up and over the rear end housing. So it's a unique heavy-duty 9-inch housing that's got some notches within it that are designed into the case. So it allows that 3-inch to get up and over with no clearance issues. And other than that, I mean, I think the biggest, the most important thing to discuss is the weight of this, because that's the question that keeps coming up, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know, and they're just making claims that, oh, it looks cool, but you're adding a ton of weight.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that this actually saves, if you pull all the stock components out of that car and include subframe connectors, this is about 10 pounds less than what all those factory components are. So for all the haters that are saying it's heavy, you know, just listen to this. It's not. You actually got weight savings there. So you're adding strength and you're saving weight. It's really the total package.
Very cool. And what's going on in the rear? So you said it's a 4-link setup. How much different is it than the factory 4-link?
So the rear is a parallel 4-bar. It's got a long pan-hard bar on the back for the lateral located. These cars were originally a triangulated 4-link, which really poor handling characteristics. It uses a billet upper link, so it's kind of packaged in there nice and tight. That's offset from the lower. We cant those lowers in at a slight angle to package them within the factory sub rails. So your rear sub rails on the car, they sit outboard of this, and you're still able to fit a 345 tire on the back. So anything with a 12-inch wheel, you fit massive meats on the back of it. It's a strange HD 9-inch housing. Any 9-inch gear sets it'll accept. Again, Bayer brakes on the back. This is a 13-inch Bayer SS4 kit on it, and DOM sway bar, similar shocks in the back that we've got in the front. Whole chassis comes equipped with stainless steel brake lines, all plumbed, flex lines coming from your housing, coming from your front calipers. It's powder coated, ready to roll.
And this fuel tank, I'd imagine it's made specifically for the chassis?
The fuel tank fits just within, again, the factory body constraints. We put some notches in the back to make it more friendly on the exhaust system. This particular one has a aeromotive fuel system in it, so GM style returnless system with a VaporWorks control module in it. And just again, all in all, made to be very user friendly. Connects right to the existing filler neck tube, so there's no modifications. The only thing you need to do to install this chassis is drill out the spot welds on the factory upper 4-link brackets and remove those. Beyond that, this is 100% bolt-on.
Oh, wow.
You should be able to handle this in a day.
So even the floor, everything's...
The floor stays 100% stock, which is why we displayed it this way. We wanted to showcase that complete factory floor and how it just perfectly surrounds what we've done with this chassis without modifying a single thing.
That's very cool. Awesome. And I'm sure this, exactly as it sits, is going to fit most of your customer base. Are there additional upgrades?
You've got upgrades in the components. So the coilovers, we have a few upgrades on. Brakes, there's about 3 or 4 options that I've discussed. We've got powder coat options. We're working right now on developing an exhaust system for it. It'll have 3-inch with an X-pipe, flex joints right out the back. We'll do it in 2 configurations for the Mustang GT bumper and then just the standard LX. Okay. Working on header applications for it as well. So the header that's in it, that's the first of our production RS headers. It's a Coyote based. Okay. So they're cast collectors, big inch and 7/8 tubes, billet flanges, and that fits perfectly in that chassis and allows the steering linkage to pass right through it. Tried to make it, again, as user-friendly as you can. So realistically, if a guy wanted to leave all of his stock components, if you had just a super clean 5.0, you could pull that body off, set it right down, steering linkage connect kit, and you don't need to touch anything on the car. You can leave all the factory wiring intact. The motor's going to land right where it was, make all your connections, and you can look at it more from not being so much of a project as it is now just a bolt-on upgrade.
Yeah. But how about the rear end housing? Could you do a floater if you wanted to?
You could do a floater. We've got some options for like a C6 style vet outer floater bearing. So real nice kit that doesn't force you to move the calipers inboard like you would with a conventional floater. Yeah. And there's a bunch of different upgrades you can do there. Different gear sets. You can do heavy duty ring and pinion. There's a lot you can do in that rear system.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.